Welcome to another episode of Inside IALR. We're here today with two, by the time you're hearing this, they will be graduates of the ATDM program, that's Accelerated Training in Defense Manufacturing. So we have Patrick Crowley, who just graduated from CNC, and Ron Green, who graduated from welding. So thank you guys for being here. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Glad to be here.
So to start, let's give a quick rundown for those who don't know. ATDM, that stands for, like I said, Accelerated Training in Defense Manufacturing. This is a Navy program where basically the companies that supply parts for the Navy can't find enough workers. So this program has been stood up on the IALR campus where people come in from all over the country, 4 months in and out, where they come in, learn, whether it be, there's 5 tracks, there's welding, CNC machining, metrology, non-destructive testing, and additive manufacturing. So people come in with either very limited or even sometimes no experience in those areas, walk out in 4 months, basically ready for a job with an entry-level job in that sector. Sometimes it's people who don't have a job lined up. Sometimes it's companies sending their employees through for training. So all different kinds of options there. But yeah, happy to talk to you guys today about your experience in the program. So to start, just kind of walk us through, how did you end up in the ATDM program? What led you here? And where are you guys from, like geographically, where are you guys from?
I'm from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Well, for me, I was previously a business owner. I was an entrepreneurial type of person for the last 10 years. I've been running my own clothing company, and, I was doing fairly well for myself. I was able to support myself over the course of the last 10 years pretty successfully. Sales were consistent and everything was good. But then up to a couple years ago, I started to notice a change in my customer spending habits, and sales, began to decline, even with my, continued efforts to market my products and things like that. And it forced me into a space where I had to, make some tough decisions about my future. And, I'm looking to start a family soon. I've just recently proposed to my fiance, and, I'd like to be able to provide some stability in that way. And it's just funny how the ATDM program, I started seeing ads on my social media, like nonstop. It was like every time I was on Facebook, anytime I was on Instagram, like at least twice or 3 times a day, I'm seeing an ad from webuildgiants.com or something like that. I'm like, what is this? So after, just being bombarded, like literally, I'm like, let me check this out. So I hit the link and I started exploring the website, and, it really piqued my interest because I want to be able to be someone that can provide stability for a family structure. And this really, when I saw the welding and all the other programs as well, but welding really just stood out to me because I know that's a skill set that's in high demand. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's really what drew me into the opportunity.
So what you're saying is those social media ads work.
Yes, they do. They do. Yeah, really.
What about you, Patrick?
I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. For the past few years, I was working in the supply chain and logistics industry, kind of doing like corporate work as like a freight broker. I was kind of wondering how my career progression was going to go. I had some discussions with my manager, and I was beginning to think at the start of 2024 that I wanted to make a transition out of the corporate world into some sort of trade. So I kind of looked around my local area at like plumber's apprenticeships and electrician apprenticeships and various others. But then actually I kind of was talking about it with family. I have a grandpa who used to work for Siemens in their CNC control like sales division. So he kind of like planted the idea in my mind to look at CNC machining as a potential trade to get into. Also, I had worked at a metal spinning company a few years ago and had a little bit of time as a machine operator there. So I was kind of going, with some limited knowledge with that. So yeah, I just did a little bit of online research through like Build Submarines, and then found the ATDM program. Applied to it last August. Got the word that I was accepted, around like late September, October of last year, and started up this January. And yeah, it's been great so far. Yeah, and I can't believe it's all like come to a close now. It really does go by quickly. But I can confidently say, yeah, I made the right choice. And yeah, making this career transition. It's a big move, but yeah, I'm very confident in the newfound like skills that I have in the program.
What have the last 4 months been like for you all? So, I mean, you showed up right after Christmas in January, or right after the New Year, showed up not really knowing what you're getting into. What have the last 4 months been like for you guys?
For me, it's been somewhat of a whirlwind. It's like coming in. I literally have zero prior experience with welding specifically, and even just like the type of blue collar work that is kind of associated with it. I don't come from that background. My family, I have men in my family who do, but I just kind of never saw myself working in that space. And just being here now is even still kind of surreal to me that I'm getting ready to come out and start a new career path doing this. So it's been really fulfilling though, because I've had a great experience making new friends. The instructors, they were very helpful and informative every step of the way. And even the intake process, the staff here, they've all been very helpful and insightful. So I feel like I'm well prepared going into this new field. But yeah, it's definitely I've had some moments where I felt overwhelmed, or just like wondering like, wow, what am I doing? Like, is this the right? Did I make the right move? But as I continued on through the program, I was able to just grow my comfort level, and I'm feeling pretty confident stepping out here.
And do you guys know at this point where you're headed next?
I'm headed to Connecticut for my job.
I actually have 3 different opportunities. It's just dependent upon what's in my best interest at this point. But the one that's closest to me is in Camden, New Jersey. It's a company that specializes in building large containers for spent nuclear fuel. And I went through the interview process with them. Did my weld test and everything, and I'm just waiting on the results from that. So if all works out positively with them, that's where I'll be. But if not, I do have an opportunity to work in Jacksonville, Florida, for a shipbuilding company down there as well. So just weighing the options at this point.
What was that like coming in with knowing that basically you were going to have open options? You came in not knowing where you would be going next and knowing that you could have open options in a lot of different places. So, what has that part of it been like? Has that been stressful or has that been fun? Or
I'd say I kind of had an idea of like the geographic regions I wanted to focus on for my job. I was either it's pretty much the Midwest or Northeast for me, just because, where I have family, where I have connections, and where I know there's CNC machining and manufacturing. There were, as I thought, going into it, there were a ton of opportunities in both regions. So it just kind of came down to which individual company, I had the best fit with. So, but it was very cool and very like empowering to know that, like you kind of have your choice of, if you really focus in on one particular area or company, there's a very good chance that you could end up with them just because your skills are so much in demand. So you got a little bit of leverage that way. But yeah, with the way I found my company, it's an electric motor manufacturer in Connecticut, so I'll be machining electric motor components for like naval vessels and heavy industry. And they're the parent company came to our ATDM job fair in March, so I was talking to one of their business development managers there and kind of like just gave my contact info. I saw where their locations were. Their main headquarters is in Wisconsin, where I'm from, and they also had companies out east as well. So kind of like, okay, well, that's already a good sign. Let's get chatting with them and see what they're doing. Then I gave my info. Obviously went through the application process. I even traveled up to Connecticut for an on-site interview. I was able to do that with like the flexibility and permission from my teachers here. It all worked out pretty well. So. Yeah, it was cool to have like the open possibilities of like anywhere you want to go. Yeah, if you put your mind to it, you can end up there. Yeah, in just a few months.
Yeah, same here. I was encouraged by the amount of opportunities that were provided via the job fairs, and with our cohort coming in when we did, we had we actually were able to partake in 2 job fairs. So it was really nice, and that's actually the first job fair that we were here for. That's where I met the company that I'm looking forward to working with. It's just really, I'm glad that everything worked out the way that it did, because I probably wouldn't even have known about this company, but, just having an opportunity to talk with their recruiters and the HR management and really just start to build some rapport right on the spot was very valuable to me. And, once I, got the specific certifications that were relevant to the position, I decided to reach out to them and submit an application. And, thankfully, they still, kind of remembered me and everything. So, that was very, very like a key component to, just the whole intake process and getting through the interview and everything like that. It's been very fulfilling up to this point. So I'm pleased with it. It was, because coming in, I was unsure. Like they tell us in the application process that you have to be open to relocation and everything, which is, like a huge undertaking for a lot of people. But I felt like I was up for it, and I'm just glad that everything worked out the way it did.
Ron, you were talking about just kind of how intense those 4 months are, and how that old phrase, it's like drinking out of a fire hose. It's like that.
Yeah.
That seems to apply to this program. For both of you guys, I mean, how did you handle that rapid pace? How did you make sure that you were keeping up, that you were not falling behind? Because obviously, if you fall behind even a little bit, that's all compounding on each other. So I mean, how did you guys handle that?
Well, I made an effort to, just be very proactive when it comes to, the completion of the homework assignments, because that's not something that I was really expecting. It's like, not only were we going to be doing, the hands-on training and everything, but we also had, like classroom time, and then we had like, homework that we did outside of the, actually being in our welding booths and things like that. But all those things, like, just making sure that you're on top of these things and not letting too much time go by, And me, I'm on the night shift, 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. So even just making that adjustment to my sleep and work schedule and everything was there was a little adjustment period that was a little rough, but once I figured out my flow, I just really had to start to structure my days a lot more so that I could, accomplish what I needed to accomplish while also making sure I get enough rest for the upcoming night in class. So, but I just feel like this is something that I really want to do well in. So it's all just like a worthy sacrifice, Yeah. So and it's like, this is what I'm here for. I understand that this is an accelerated program, so you just got to take everything as it comes and just really like portion out your time so that you can be effective.
And since you said you were doing the night shift, so welding, for those who don't know, is there are options for a lot of these tracks across 3 different shifts. And welding is one of those right now that it has first, second, and third shift. Machining, what shift were you, Patrick?
I was first shift, thankfully, so I didn't have to make too much of an adjustment. I'm kind of grateful for that, too. I had my roommates, he was on second shift, so even though we shared an apartment, we were always like coming and going at different times. We kind of like worked together, as much as we could to help get through the classwork process. Mm-hmm. But I'd say, yeah, in terms of, keeping up to pace over the course of the 4 months, just making sure to stay on top of things as much as you can and use your time effectively for the time you have when you're back home. It is pretty nice how everything's situated here. You're living pretty close to where the campus is located. I had my own car, so I wasn't taking the shuttle to and from class, so I was able to get home like a little bit more quickly, but still wasn't too bad. I think for CNC machining, I came in with like very limited machine operating experience, so it was kind of like a whole new world for me. I wouldn't say I was perfect, with everything at first, but I think the big thing for me was just continuing to improve upon each day of class, and you'll learn from the mistakes that I made, because pretty much everyone in my class, made mistakes all throughout the entire program, even the guys who came in with, over a year of machining experience. And everyone does, it's part of the nature of the trade. But the big important thing was to, continue to learn, if it's classwork or just something that you're doing, within the machine as some sort of work procedure, just continuing to ask the instructors for help, learning whatever process or whatever aspect of machining making really detailed notes. I think that helped me out a lot. They give you a notebook as part of the package when you arrive, thankfully. So I fill up that notebook like pretty quickly here with everything. And I'm going to continue to do that, as I enter the industry. That was one of the big points that my instructors emphasized, when they were shadowing and just starting out with their first machining jobs, just making really detailed notes on like every single step of the work process is going to make things a lot easier. It definitely does go by quickly, but if you like gain that confidence, over the course of the program, and continue to improve, you can knock it out pretty well and really, do a pretty good job and produce good product. So, yeah.
And you said that, that idea of what your instructors were telling you of making good notes. What were some of those other things aside? I mean, obviously you guys are learning the hard skills of, how to weld and how to run these CNC machines. But what were some of those other things that you learned, those tips and tricks or those ideas that you picked up through this program that you're going to take with you into your next job?
I'd say in terms of what they call label soft skills, that was a whole portion of the class. They just said really be humble and just always be willing to learn from anyone, because as you get into your first machining role, everyone's going to have more experience than you. So just kind of absorb as much as you can, and just ask a lot of good questions, really specific questions. Be as engaged as you can, because you're never going to ask a dumb question, no matter how dumb you think it is. That was one thing they said the first day, and they would much rather have you be very cautious around the machinery than to go way too quickly and then end up with a costly error, because that was the big thing. There were a few probe crashes and some pieces that turned out poorly because of mistakes that were made. But of course, people learn from that. But just taking your time for sure when it comes to machining, because there's so many variables at play in terms of the program that's running, in terms of your tool setup, and fixture setup too. So it's just really important to stay on top of all that.
A major thing for all aspects of this, going into this industry is safety. And that was something that was really stressed to us, from day one. Just obviously making sure that you always have your protective equipment with you, and that you're wearing it and utilizing the machinery properly. Because there are some really, obviously traumatic injuries that can occur and that do occur. And a lot of these things are preventable. If you're making sure that you're setting yourself up for success in that way. So, I feel like the safety measures, that's something that I'm really going to be, taking with me no matter where I'm at, every aspect of the job, making sure that I'm setting myself up properly, that the machines are running at the rates they need to be running at, and, that I've got all my things, all my protective equipment on. Because, even with that being said, you still can, burn yourself, things like that. You got hot metal dropping down if you're doing overhead welding and things like that. So yeah, it's just taught me to be that much more mindful about this, because I want to be able to work, for a long period of time, and I want to be able to have longevity in this industry. So if I get hurt, then I'm out the game. So yeah, so it's I just really have learned to just take the precautions necessary and not just kind of just dive into things so recklessly.
What was the camaraderie like with y'all's cohorts, with your group? Did y'all feel like you were thrown to the wolves together, so that helped you kind of figure it out, or what was that group dynamic like for your respective cohorts?
Well, yeah, it's pretty much like that, where you sort of bond through these somewhat stressful experiences that you may have, where we have to lean on each other, and just that those are the things that really establish the friendships that I have now. Is just learning to rely on the person that's next to you. Thankfully, I had a couple people in my class that have some experience in welding. So even from the first night, I had to share a booth with a guy who, he already had I think 3 years of welding experience on the job. And that was very helpful, just for me, just because he was able to, even though I obviously had the instructor there, but being in the booth with him, he was able to, assist me with technique and like make some corrective measures, like right there on the spot. So, just having that feedback, that consistent feedback from your classmates and things like that is necessary. And then we also just really like work to motivate each other. There's we're challenging each other in that way. Like there's a little competitive spirit amongst the guys and everything. So that was, I really enjoyed that aspect of it. And, it carried over, outside of class. So, we just start hanging out and, just spending time together, getting to know each other, beyond, the classroom setting. And, I feel like I've made some really great friends, like lifelong connections and things in that way.
Yeah, I had a same type of situation. Pretty much from day one. I had a group, not everyone from the class, but most guys from the class. We would dine at the Megabytes Cafe at the main IALR building pretty much every day. So that was kind of our moment to relax, just get out of the main training center building, kind of go over and talk about what we've been doing throughout the day and our various work techniques and, what we think we're doing next and kind of preparing that way. So it was a little bit of, talking shop, but then also just, getting to know each other as well. I had classmates come from all around the U.S. There was one guy from New Mexico, one guy from near me in Michigan, a couple guys from Long Island in New York, and then another guy from North Carolina. So really, that's a big mix. So I got to share, our individual experiences. And a couple of the guys already had a lot of prior machining experience. So I was able to draw on them, especially when it came to some of the additional projects that I was working on. We were setting up multiple vices right next to each other, doing some complicated fixture stuff, and also just using some unusual tooling on the lathe. Because you can do, if you progress past, the required coursework, you're able to do on that because the ATDM instructors have a lot of additional projects to work on, which is pretty cool, where you're just given a drawing and then you determine the setup and tooling for it. Working together on that was really informative when the instructors were more hands-off and it was up to you to, figure everything out. You definitely wanted to draw upon the resources and the experience of others. And then, it just was, everyone kind of worked at, there were various paces between all the classmates, but overall, everyone was able to collaborate when need be, and everyone had a really good communication with each other. There was a pretty big age gap as well between people, but still that never got between people, and you just had different perspectives on that, and it was shared pretty well. And our instructors did a lot to, encourage a lot of teamwork and collaboration. So it came together really well in such a short amount of time.
You're talking about those soft skills earlier. You're going to be working with people of different ages and from different places. Those are good skills to go ahead and get them in the program.
And about that age gap, too, it was interesting. I hadn't even considered it, but I'm pretty much the oldest guy in my class. Everybody else was, either 18, 19-year-old guys, had a couple 22-year-olds and things like that. But myself, I'm 41. So I'm literally learning from these younger guys, how to do these things. And I'm just grateful that everything worked out the way it did because, like I said, even with me being the eldest class member and everything like that, I was still able to, connect with these guys in a meaningful way and create some solid bonds. And, they were very, very helpful, but I'm grateful for everything.
If you hear friends or family talking about they're not sure what they're doing with their life or if they're thinking about a career shift, what's your elevator pitch based on your personal experience for why someone should consider this program?
What it comes down to is if you're looking for an opportunity or a way to be able to support yourself going into the future, you need to be setting yourself up in a way that has some solid prospects that you can be able to look and feel confident about. This is the industry that we're going into is a very high demand when it comes to the skill sets that we're learning. And as far as welding goes, I looked it up and they said there's over 500,000 jobs that are unfilled right now for welders, for skilled welders and that's just in the U.S. I saw a statistic that said there's like out of the entire U.S. population, there's maybe like 0.1% of the population that can actually weld on a professional level. So just seeing those statistics right there, like the playing field is wide open for us, and there's a lot of room for growth, obviously, and being able to make a solid income that you can support yourself and a family from, and really have like a fulfilling career, something. And then also it's like this is an opportunity to contribute to something that's greater than yourself. You know what I mean? It's like this is really like, you're in a way you are serving your country. And I think that's very important.
Definitely agree with that. I kind of came to the ATDM program for similar reasons. I think the biggest thing is, if you're interested in gaining a hard skill that can translate over, for the rest of your career, and even if you want to do it as a hobby as well, you can do that with welding, you can do that with machining. It's pretty cool. It packs a lot into a short amount of time, but if you're really committed to it, if you give it your all, you can lay the groundwork for a hard skill that's always going to be in demand, that's very tangible. I always like, having the one-word job title, machinist, welder. People just know exactly what it is right off the bat, and you can talk. Sometimes you can't talk about what you're working on in terms of security clearances. I've heard a lot of stories about that. But for the most part, for what you can talk about, it's pretty cool. And everyone was always really curious about it, and they're wondering how you got into it, and what, the trade entails. And just being able to explain that to people and how you're contributing towards, our national defense in your own particular way. It's super cool. And really the sky is the limit. Once you get in at the ground floor with the skills that you gain here, you can go as far as you want to for as long as you want to. And you never know what kind of opportunities can come up down the road just, by being a machinist or being a welder or working in QA or additive as well, because that's a whole new field that's just continuing to grow at a rapid pace. But really, with the skills that you can gain here, the sky's definitely the limit, and there's so much opportunity. So just a lot to look forward to now that it's all over. So I'm very excited about it.
No, and I love seeing the variety of career stories, or I guess the variety of stories of people who come here. There's people who have basically coming out of high school, no career experience, to people who are more mid-career, which I would say is more like what you're talking about, Ron. You had some career, had a business, ran that, and decided now it's time to do something else. And there's people who are even later in their career who have successfully come through this program. And just seeing that variety of, that this ATDM can be perfect for someone who's fresh out of high school and someone who's in their 50s and done 30 years of work and is like, I want to try something new. It can be for anywhere in between. But thank you guys for being here today. I just love, hearing the stories of the success of this program. Obviously, this program is, funded by, funded by the Navy and Department of Defense, and obviously, the impact is about how they're concerned with the impact of, how those companies that are making their parts and their equipment can get the workers they need. But obviously this, that impact trickles down to those individuals who come through. And I know, we had the big summit last week talking about this program, and our President Telly Tucker, he was talking about, the 6 main points of ATDM, and I forget exactly what they were, but on the bottom one it said changing lives. He added that one in, and I think it's cool to just see the stories of how many stories there are of people coming into this program with, I was doing this job that I didn't really like or wasn't really sure what I wanted to do, and walked out with this job that I'm really excited about and will be making, a salary that I can support my family on. It's really, really cool to see, and that's, that reminder of why this program exists. So, but thank you guys for being here. Really appreciate it. Anything else you would want to add before we go?
Yeah, thank you for having me. And I really enjoyed kind of like recapping everything for myself too, saying it out loud. Yeah, it's just a great experience.
Yeah, I think I'll echo those same sentiments. I really appreciated the time that we had here, a really high quality experience with some really great people. I learned a ton, and I'm just ready to get out here and put it all to use now. I'm really excited about the next phase of my life, and I'm glad that I had the opportunity to take part in this program.
Absolutely.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Megabytes IALR's on-site cafe features everyday favorites, convenient ordering options, and an eager staff ready to welcome and serve you. Our enticing menus offer something for everyone, from a fresh, well-stocked salad bar, wraps, sandwiches, and our rotating hot buffet offered on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Megabytes is open Monday through Friday from 9:15 a.m. until 1:30 p.m. To view menus and for more information, visit ilr.org/megabytes.